Hey, welcome back, guys. Just want to let you guys know, give you guys a heads up. This is not like a total. This is a reaction video, but it's a reaction video to young people, about 8 of them or so. They're basically detransitioning. This is a Detrans Awareness Day panel discussion with detransitioners. It says for a No Way Back documentary. So it's basically about young adults, how they got persuaded into being a trans, um, and their story and what happened. So this basically affects us all, but for me personally, it with one kid, my son, and people he knows, um, this topic gets is in the way of our relationship. And I say in a way is some people he knows that's trans, and he knows that I don't agree with it. But that's why I'm doing this video, because I want to learn about it. And the way I want to learn about it is try to understand their thoughts and why they think this way, and if there's a possibility of being open to people that have it. Again, I just want to say that it's one of those things that I understand where these people are coming from, but they're detransitioning for a reason.
Yes. You guys want to go? No? I brought up a lot of feelings for me. I medically detransitioned this past year, and I was still maintaining my social transition, clinging on to that, and kind of hearing about the process of other detransitioners, and even speaking to some people who are here today, learning how much commonalities we have with this journey. It makes you realize that, oh, well, maybe this is rare, but maybe this is not so rare as they're saying it is, especially when it comes to medical consequences. I can speak for myself with some of the effects that testosterone has had on my body. It's menopause. It's going through menopause at 19. And when your body's not ready for that, and the incontinent, there was like a list of that, the incontinence, not being able to hold your bladder, not being able to sleep because of heat flashes that are painful. It's ridiculous thinking that a teenager should go through that when they're just at the cusp of adulthood. So it brought up a lot
And
of
they
emotion,
shouldn't.
realizing that I wasn't alone in a lot of that. I know that I had a conversation with Chloe earlier this year about heat flashes, and that was the first time that I had spoken to anybody about like the itchiness and the uncomfortableness at night, and realizing that wasn't just me. And that's what you hear a lot. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, it's just you. I guess it just didn't work out for you. And it's like, it's not just me. This is something that could happen,
Right.
and it's exhausting. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So can we just go down the line really quick and you guys can introduce yourselves so we know who you are, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Hi, I'm Shape. I'm male detransitioner, gender nonconforming. You guys may know me from YouTube or Twitter. So this was pretty powerful, also triggering, but powerful.
I'm Rachel. I transitioned when I was like 25. Lived as a man, quote unquote, for like 7 years. Realized, oh, I don't need to do this, and I'm running away from other things. So I went back to living as a woman more or less a year ago, and just kind of opened my eyes to kind of like the whole gaslighting of this trans like marketing. Like it's, well, not to get too far into it, but it's like, the whole thing is like weaponizing empathy to make people believe that, oh, you have to affirm these kids. That's the nice thing to do. But long term, well, I think you guys know.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Wagner. In my early 20s, I had substance use disorders and mental health issues. I transitioned from male to female. I lived my life as a transgender woman for close to 10 years. I detransitioned upon sobering up and getting to see a psychologist that was not an activist. The most powerful part of this documentary for me personally was when I talked about Jung's shadow self, because I think a lot of society, and especially the trans rights movement, detransition is a reality that they're not ready to see or face or accept quite yet. So, yeah. Thank you.
I hear for the first three people say mental disorder that they had. That's what I say it is. So I mean, and then it's the left saying that we're haters and we're name calling. I mean, the way I look at it is maybe we just have to be a little bit more gentle, I guess, because if it is mental, then I don't know how to explain it.
My
More
name's
caring,
Estella
I guess.
Suarez Hamilton. I gave an introduction already, so.
My name is Luca Hine, and I transitioned as a minor at 16 and detransitioned around 6 months ago when I was 20.
Hey everyone, my name is Laura Becker. I was in the documentary. My hair was looking a little messed up at the time. I had dyed it, too many home dyes, pink. Well, thank you. For a little while it was.
Excuse me?
So, yeah, some of you may know me from Twitter, Funk God Artist. And I designed some of the Detrans Awareness hats and shirts that some people might be wearing. So that's what you may know me from.
And I'm Chloe Cole, and I'm somebody who also transitioned as a minor between the ages of 12 to 16. And I've been speaking out about my experience for not much longer than a year now, since I was 17.
I guess
To me, and you're going to hear this young man, guy, girl, whatever, tell the story. And it goes back to the whole changing the child's gender at a young age. I think it's wrong. And you'll hear their story, and yeah, I think it's wrong. Even at 18, 19, they still don't understand what is going to take place.
I should tell a little more about my story since everybody has. I transitioned in my early 20s as well. The first time I ever got in any kind of mental health help was when I went to Fenway Health in Boston, and they completely ignored my internalized homophobia, other comorbidities, and affirmed me. Like, there was no pushback. I got on estrogen pretty easily, but my mental health declined after that, but I attributed
There we
it
go,
to being
mental
in the wrong
health again.
body. So unfortunately, I got cleared for the sex reassignment surgery. That deteriorated my mental health even further. Till now, I have complications after multiple revisions. I have urinary tract infections every month. That's why I was going to the bathroom like a million times. I am unable to have sex. I have osteoporosis. I haven't been able to get any help really from endocrinologists or even surgeons to reverse this. This is all one giant experiment I fell into when I was very vulnerable and not in a good emotional place. I definitely got sold lies and
There it is.
hardware fixes for my software issues that actually never went away. And my biggest push for transition was internalized homophobia. I just didn't want to be gay because I was brainwashed from a very young age that gay is bad and sinful. So the minute I realized I could escape my homosexuality, I latched onto the idea that I am a woman, but I realized that none of those transitions solved any of my mental issues. In fact, it made it worse. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have a question?
Hi. Thank you all for being here. You're all very brave, and I probably follow most of you on Twitter or something. I think, like a lot of parents whose kid is in this ideology, fortunately, my daughter so far has not said she wants to medicalize, but I can see just socially things sort of upping, which scares the hell out of me because she'll be 18 next year. So I'm wondering, like, if you guys had seen this documentary, you know, when you were 17, would it influence you? Or is there anything that you would say to somebody at 17 who's in the grip that you, like, would help them, like, you know, to for body acceptance or whatever it would be? Would love to hear.
Yes, if I saw this documentary, it would have made a difference. There are some people that are stubborn and very hard-headed, and I was one of them. Especially when you're 19, you think you know everything. If somebody says, "Oh, you're going to get menopause," oh, I don't care, you know, because you don't know what that means. The more information people get, I think, from firsthand, it makes a difference. I remember, and I said this prior to when we sat down, I didn't get top surgery. I was on testosterone for over 7 years. And I was socially trans before that, and then a little bit after that. But I never went for top surgery. Specifically, I can remember I watched a testimony of somebody who was transgender. They were a trans man, so they were a female, and explaining that they had done all this surgery and all this hormones and everything, and it still, they were feeling like it wasn't resolving anything. And I remember he was this big, buff, bodybuilding guy, and I was thinking, oh, he's so beautiful, I want to be like that. And he was like, don't do it, you know, it will not fix your dysphoria. And so that gave me enough to just hold back. When I came to Los Angeles, there was no gatekeeping. I went to the I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but a very popular trans clinic down the street from here. And I was new in town. It was my first time going and talking to them. They had an interview with me, and like a car dealership, you get a packet of papers and you're good to go. Like, they have everything. But because...
See, that, to me, I don't think that's right. I mean, if it is mental disorder, then we should not make it that easy. If it is not, then so be it. It's their choice.
Because I had seen the testimony, I thought, well, let me just give myself some more time to think. And the more you read about long term, and the more you talk about these surgeries and how they affect you in the end, the more you realize, well, this is maybe not the most creative solution, and this is probably not the most healthy solution. So I think it would make a difference. I think that absolutely this film is a snapshot into history and a good opportunity for people to get a different perspective, especially because it's going from a leftist view too. So it's very nice to be able to digest that. So
when I first transitioned or started to, I specifically remember I saw the testimony of a man named Walter Heyer. He's an elderly man who I believe did in fact have the vaginoplasty, and it didn't stop me. Thankfully I never had that done, but I was well aware of it. But I was in a very delusional and ideological mindset, so I really don't think seeing this would have stopped me. I really don't. But I would have just told my former self, to be careful what you wish for and don't rush into anything, because changing your gender, it's not like, shaving your head or, something like that. It's very difficult to undo, and the further you go, the harder and harder. So, yeah.
One thing for me, in female social circles, I definitely felt like I got cool points for it, and I was already in my 20s, and it's got to be 10 times that when you're in high school. So I feel like almost anything you would say would just fuel it even more, because it's like, oh, this is something you're not allowed to do, and it's kind of risky, so that's more exciting. I mean, and I don't know if this would help, but like one of the biggest reasons I detransitioned was because I realized, oh, like I felt like affirmed in my identity as a quote unquote man when I was with like my female friend group. But then as you get more and more masculine, like they don't see you as a woman anymore. And you start like your brain does literally change. Like there is something different with the hormones. So like any kind of like feelings of like, I don't know, belonging she gets, like within her current social circle, like, and I don't know, just basically imagine losing all those female friend groups, because once you look like a man, like it just doesn't really work the same. So like, I don't know, I'm not really even sure how to explain that to a kid, but like, would you do this if you were like completely like alone by yourself without the affirmation of all your friends? And she'd probably say, yeah, sure I would. But yeah, it's like people tend to socialize in gendered groups, right? So it's, yeah, just imagine if you like can't like socialize with her current friends because of the way that they see her as like a man like later on. I don't know how better to describe that.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
So, I'm 18 now. I'm a legal adult. And as many of you know, I travel around the country talking about this subject. And there's still a lot of things that I can't do legally. Like I still can't buy marijuana or nicotine products or alcohol. I can't rent a car. Sometimes I can't even rent a hotel room because I'm under the age of 21. And yet at 13, I was allowed to make the decision to change my sex. But I really...
Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. Democrats and Republicans, we need to get on board with it doesn't make sense to let young youth decide if they're male or female. Whether you believe in it or not, it doesn't matter. What this person here is going to tell you is basically even if at the age of 19, they still don't even know what it's like or going to be like.
I really don't think that 18 is just some magical age where all of a sudden you're capable of maybe legally doing something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you really fully understand what you're doing. I mean, the estimate right now is that most people's brain development finishes at around the age of 25, and it's probably much later for a lot of other people. But brain development aside, there's still a lot of things that people at the age of 18, at the age of 25, and even beyond don't know about the world. When you're young, you don't really have a lot of knowledge or experience having to do with the world. And I was lucky to find out that I wanted to have kids at the age of 16 and to stop transitioning then, but not a lot of women figure that out until much later now.
Man, she stopped at 16. Wow.
I think particularly when you have, a child going into this and you're worried about them heading down the path of medicalization. Every situation's different, but presenting a different perspective, I feel like couldn't hurt. They may not listen because young people tend to be rather stubborn, but it couldn't hurt. And your kid doesn't stop being your child when they reach 18. You still need to be there and let your concerns be known with care and compassion and a genuine concern for their health and well-being. Keeping that line of communication open to be that safe adult for your child, even when your child is an adult, is something that young adults still need. Everyone needs to a certain extent. And
Yeah, I mean that hits home to me with this exact topic. I'm normally a hard ass. I've always been that way, and you know, with PTSD and the war, Iraq, I have no emotions, none, hardly any, and so this right here, when you know, like my sons or my kids or whatever, that are left leaning, have ideas, or have relatives or have friends that are um, that have transitioned or transitioning or whatever the case might be, they totally believe the opposite of what I believe. And that, I mean, the only reason I'm making this video is because I get just a different perspective. And like this person just said, you got to be compassionate. It's hard for me one way or the other. Never really been compassionate kind of guy. The the war sort of, the army actually, I've done away with that, being compassionate. You know, so the reason I'm making this video is because maybe I'll have a different perspective and see what these young people are going through. And yeah.
And so there's going to be, you know, young people who maybe didn't transition and they reach 18 and rush into stuff, but it's never, you know, I don't think it's acceptable to give up on them just because they maybe won't listen or they're hard-headed. If anything,
Doesn't matter. My kids know that I'm always here for them. I'm always here for you. If you're watching this video, my kids, you know I'm always here for you, no matter what our thoughts and feelings are that are different. I'm always here. Always. I love every single one of my children. Every one of them, even my stepchildren.
that's when you need to be more compassionate and really keep that line of communication open, because they deserve for you to keep trying.
And I agree with that. They do. You guys do deserve that. But again, for parents like myself that don't know exactly what these people are going through, it goes both ways. It has to go both ways, because someone like myself that's hard-headed have no idea. But
Meet the new standard in sleep.
I feel these people's
This
pain.
is Pod
That's
4
sure.
Ultra. It's not.
Yeah, so I think that this documentary definitely would have impacted my perceptions, because although I was had a lot of magical thinking, was naive, very stubborn, I was also very overwhelmed. And we all sort of know the kind of common wisdom, you know, kids need structure. Everyone needs structure. We need to order chaos, because things are very overwhelming. And I was overwhelmed. That's a lot of what the passive suicidal ideation is just being overwhelmed, and your brain goes to this solution, this fantasy solution of escape, so it can deal with it at that moment. And transition is very similar, the transition fantasy. So I think I really was hungering. For a long time, I was hungering to be helped, actually. You know, I was very alone, and from peers and family, and I really wanted a safe adult to really sit down with me and listen to everything and tell me that they knew how to help, not in a pushy way or in a controlling way, but in a way that allowed me to feel like myself. And I just never really got that because my parents by the point when I was 19, when I transitioned, they were exhausted and they were not very equipped to deal with it. And there was some abuse as well to me psychologically. And so they just kind of, they did emotionally sort of give up. And because I was so stubborn, they said, okay. And the thing is, you just kind of get used to people not seemingly really understanding you. Teachers didn't understand. Therapists, just low quality, shallow understanding. And so they'll say, yeah, you're valid, or like, sure, you can, are you sure you want to do it? Yeah, okay. Maybe it'll help because you're already so fucked up. You're already so mentally ill anyway. So they were very desperate too, my parents. But I was suicidal and had unprocessed trauma, PTSD. So
yeah,
definitely keeping that connection. I know it's very difficult, but
crazy. Still
listening and still being there and not giving up is this inevitable, outcome that this person is just going to be messed up and they're disabled and they're mentally ill and that's their identity. And, trying not to see your child as broken. Because I saw myself as a broken human being that didn't deserve love or was capable of achieving happiness. So, of course, you're going to go to desperate measures like surgical interventions. So I would say this document.
I deal with, depression, anxiety, PTSD. I have all that. I get it. You're lonely. You feel like your life don't even exist sometimes, or what's the point? You know what I mean? I've been there. But what I came to term is God loves me, Jesus loves me, my parents love me, my wife loves me, my kids love me. And there's no reason to think that way. Because there's always somebody that loves you. And that's the cool part about life. It is a lot better than you think it is. And so that's what I learned. And I'm learning about this video. I understand what these people are going through, and sort of, as far as depression and anxiety and all that stuff.
Documentary would have really been a relief to me because it just provided so many calming, intelligent, rational adults that are experts in the field. They know what they're talking about. It just would have relieved my existential anxiety and overwhelm to know that there is an alternative, because I thought that there wasn't. I thought it was either I'm inevitably going to kill myself and I don't want to live anymore as myself, or if I transition, maybe that'll help. I'm doubtful about it. I'm pretty hopeless. Maybe it'll help. I didn't realize until several years too late, too late in a short-term sense, for the surgery and to hormones, that there were alternative pathways. And so I have been able to cure my gender dysphoria and treat my suicidal ideation and PTSD. Still working on that one. That one takes some time. But thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this definitely would have helped me. A lot of things did resonate with me, specifically how autistic people seeing black and white. I didn't feel like I could have existed on a spectrum of a gender while being a biological male. Also, the way that that's like, I really got obsessed with transition when I found out that it was a possibility, quote unquote. So it kind of clouded my entire judgment. Also, it's the first time I've heard how dysphoria shifts. So you fix kind of like one part of your body and then you get obsessed over another part. And that actually never went away. I'm still obsessing and experiencing body dysmorphia. Yeah, so it would have definitely helped me because at the time, I didn't know that many trans people and definitely didn't know anything about detransitioners. I've heard a little bit, but all the stories were like, well, those people were never trans in the first place. You know, the same things they're telling me right now. So it's very important documentary, and it was pretty well balanced. I'm glad it was not really a radical documentary. It was very factual. So it's not, I think it could help a lot of people.
I also just wanted to add that when it comes to, you know, a parent talking to their child about this, kind of regardless of the age of the child, or anyone in general really, it's important to remember that only telling someone yes and telling someone yes, you're valid, and only affirming them and only saying yes is not an act of love. That's not what love is. Love is not giving in to every whim and only saying yes. Love is putting up those boundaries and saying no. That's and right. Having to keep someone safe even when they might be upset at you for it. Because only saying yes and only going down one path and only affirming isn't love, it's enabling. And I feel like that's just something that parents need to understand with this.
Thank you. We're going to have another question.
You know, sometimes clinicians tell parents that if you insist too much, if you try to show your children a different reality, they will dig their heels in even further. What is the difference between the things that do that versus the things that you think can actually bring on a shift in understanding?
I think it's tricky because, like, I feel like I had to actually, unfortunately, transition to be grounded back in reality because you told all these things. The thing with transition is it's sold as this magic cure, like the snake oil to cure anything, because we don't really understand what gender is anyways, and we haven't really done this experiment culturally. Like, there were a couple people who did it like way early in the 1900s, like a handful of people, but it was out of reach for most people until medical science.
I actually believe there was more. I think some of our presidents' wives, our past presidents' wives, are men. That's just my opinion. What do you guys think? And some people argue and say, well, you don't like manly women? Just because they look like a manly woman, I'm sexist. Well, I found out today that you don't have to have an Adam's apple to be a man.
Science today, so there's this huge placebo effect, and when people have these different mental illnesses, like we don't really know a lot of time how to solve them. But the thing is, the power of belief works really well. And yeah, transition. There's like this whole gender euphoria thing with testosterone. It is very euphoric. How do you bring people back to reality without them having to actually go through it? I think, and this is the tricky thing, and I think that's why we're gathered here, is that we don't really hear the downsides of transition, right? We only hear about, oh, this is this euphoric thing that's going to be life-changing, affirming it's going to be this person's real authentic self, and it makes us all good people for affirming, these trans kids, because, we have to save them from themselves from suicide. I don't know, I think just sharing stories of, like, people who have gone through transition who were or maybe still identify as trans, but found, hey, like there are some issues with this and there are other ways we can deal with this, you know, whether that's recognizing there's maybe autism, maybe there's internalized homophobia, there's other kinds of traumas. I think just people being more aware that there's this other side of transition that isn't the rosy side of transition.
And to understand your question, like, how do you avoid them from being, upset that you're showing them the other way? And I remember the mindset that I was in at 19. At the time, I came out on social media because I knew that my parents would give me a pushback, and I just wanted to just spring it on them and just not give them any chance to have any kind of pushback to me. So I remember my mother telling me, you'll never be able to fully get a penis. You'll never be able to, impregnate a woman. All these different things that were logical arguments. And I was just like, no, Buck Angel has a penis. All these different things. And I just wanted her to hear me. I just wanted her to hear what I thought was going to be a good idea. And I think that maybe a good solution would be, okay, well, if you want to show me your resources or propaganda or whatever, then I would like you to watch some resources that are from my side. And then that way they could feel listened to and you could see what they're actually looking at. And then give them an opportunity. Okay, we watched it. Now, please, would you watch this documentary with me? Or would you read some of the side effects? And we'll go in and see, do you know what a cyst is? Do you know where those come from? Okay, so here are all these different side effects. What does atrophy mean? When a woman goes through atrophy, is it just their uterus or is it their bladder and all the muscles that are along with that? Because that's something I didn't know until probably about a year ago, and I'm 27, and a doctor should have sat down and talked to me about those, but that never happened. So, if you had like a little give and take, maybe that would be helpful. That's the best solution I can think of right now in this moment.
Wow.
I think it also is, somewhat inevitable that when you give pushback, sometimes these kids are going to be upset. It is natural in child development for each age group there are boundaries, and it is very natural for kids to push against those boundaries in a healthy way. And it is the job of the adults to make sure that those boundaries are still maintained and that the kid can express that pushback in a healthy way. It's unfortunate with this issue that we've seemingly, as a society, not only we're just removed the boundary to push against, but put a medical system there in place.
Exactly.
But sometimes when you push back, they're gonna be upset, and they're gonna need a space to really express that, because when they are upset, that is an emotion that they are having. Regardless of if, as an adult, you feel like maybe the reason is stupid or they're overreacting, to that child, that's a very real experience that they are very upset about this. And whether that be that they just need some space to go blow off some steam, or they need you to be there as a compassionate adult to explain to them why, you did what you did, or they just need someone to listen. It is still a parent or adult's job to do that with a sense of care. Because, you can't force someone to realize things.
Right.
But you can be there.
And like I said, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. Let's see what she just said again.
That they are having. Regardless of if, as an adult, you feel like maybe the reason is stupid or they're overreacting, to that child, that's a very real experience that they are very upset about this. And whether that be that they just need some space to go blow off some steam, or they need you to be there as a compassionate adult to explain to them why, you know, you did what you did, or they just need someone to listen. It is still a parent or adult's job to do that with a sense of care. Because, you know, you can't force someone to realize things. But you can be there. And you can be there in the best way that that kid needs. And that's going to...
The biggest thing is if a parent like myself don't know, then it's hard for us to understand what these people are going through. And yeah, I'm just not a big compassionate kind of guy.
going to be different for every kid. And some of them are just, they're going to be stubborn. They're going to be upset for long periods of time. But I think just for this issue, it doesn't, you know, we can't just throw out that responsibility that even if a kid is upset, as long as you are doing what you're doing with care, and they are able to process that emotion of being upset.
Yeah, guys. I mean, I just wanted to bring this different type of reaction video. This kind of story resonates to me because it has something to do with my family, and I just wanted to react to these videos because I wanted to sort of get the other side of the story. But I'm learning also that transitioning for at least these people wasn't a good thing, and that we probably shouldn't be teaching our kids at young age when they don't understand to transition. We should wait to an older age. So, hey, again, thanks to watching. If you guys have been this far, please like and subscribe and share this video, and we will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.